And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara Podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guests are Marsha Sims and Dr. Bernard Haisch. Marsha is a near-death experiencer who has a multi-disciplinary background and years of experience interfacing with business, supporting scientists and their projects, and immersing herself in the music world. Bernard received his PhD in astrophysics from the University of Wisconsin in Madison and did his postdoctoral research at the Joint Institute for Laboratory Astrophysics at the University of Colorado in Boulder. Today we'll be discussing their new book, The Miracle of Our Universe, A New View of Consciousness, God, Science, and Reality. Marsha and Bernard, thank you guys for joining me and welcome.
Oh, it's our pleasure to be here. Yeah. Good to meet you, Jeff.
You know, your book is about consciousness, so let's just start right off the bat with what is your working definition of consciousness?
Well, our book is about the idea that we're not just biological machines, but rather conscious, immortal beings who co-create a virtual reality together with a great cosmic consciousness known as God. The root reality does not consist of physical stuff. The one and only thing that does exist is consciousness and its thoughts. Our consciousness is literally a piece of God. And we define God as not being a human form. It's not a he. God is not a she. God is a consciousness, an awareness that's cosmic. It just pervades the whole universe because it created the universe.
So would you say then that God separated itself into billions of people, and that's what we are, as just a tiny spark of God, and when we die, we go back and join the source consciousness together?
Yes, that's it exactly.
But I don't think you would say God separated itself into sparks. It's connected to us. It's not separate. I mean, we are sparks of God, and we're always connected by threads of light and awareness. And I saw that in an altered state, by the way, when I was meditating with Gangaji. I had an awakening of the heart. It was absolutely amazing. She walked into the room, and she is connected to Divine Source herself. And she just connected to me. And it was like an atomic explosion. It's just like, wow, wham. There I was connected with the cosmic consciousness, the awakening of the heart. My heart was palpitating with joy. Tears were streaming out of my eyes. And I looked around the room and I saw little threads of light connecting all of us in the room. And we were all of like mind because we were there to meditate with Gangaji. So the room was filled with light and love. So that's how I think we're connected to God. It's a web.
Who is Gangaji? Is that her name, Gangaji?
Gangaji, yeah. She is a teacher, mystic, who lives in Oregon right now, and she sometimes comes down to the San Francisco Bay Area where we live, and she holds satsang. Satsang is a group meeting where you interchange sort of parables, ideas, learning who you are, looking inside. She helps you to explore who you are. So it's a mystic. She's a mystic.
It's great to have Bernard here as an astrophysicist because you are the perfect person to ask this question. If you think of any explosion, whether it's a firecracker or a bomb or whatever, it always results in disorder, chaos of the parts. So the Big Bang is the only explosion that the result is order. And in my opinion, the Big Bang provided the energy for the universe, but there had to be some sort of intelligent design that took that energy and created what we have now. Where are you at on all that?
Well, yeah, the measurement was made 20 years ago of the radiation that's associated with the Big Bang happening. But we really don't know whether we've gotten far back as we can in time, see the actual origin of the universe. It looks like for some reason, something great happened. It's not really necessarily an explosion of the same kind as we experience here in the terrestrial realm. It's some kind of an outpouring of energy and whatnot. But it's far from a resolved matter what this really means. It raises serious problems that, for example, that are quite difficult to solve. That the universe seems to have originated at a point, but what caused that point to be there? We don't really know what the lies underneath or behind the Big Bang. It's a great idea. It's upheld by many astrophysical observations, but we still don't know what the universe before the Big Bang is because we don't have any before. Before cosmology.
We do have an idea what existed before God, and that comes from the Kabbalah. The Ein Sof existed, which was the vast nothingness. And then the God consciousness or source came out of the Ein Sof. And I'm just going to put it more from metaphysical terms, because the God consciousness was lonely. It decided it needed to create something to keep its interest up. So it created, we believe, first, the 0-point energy, which is a vast field of magnetic energy. And it used this to create the universe and to create the Big Bang. Now, this is a speculation, but Bernie is thinking that perhaps this could be the case. Am I right?
It could be, yeah. We certainly need to have a better concept of the 0-point field and the explosion that goes with the
Big Bang.
Big Bang, right?
Yeah.
It's really quite a mystery still. So
we can tell you more about the 0-point field in a little while, but I wanted to get to the fact that we read in John 1:1 that the Logos was with God and the Logos was God. And the Logos is a Greek word that means expression of a thought. And that's particularly relative to our God model. So maybe the Big Bang could be thought of as an expression of thought, or the Logos. And out of that, using the 0-point field, all the vast universe was created. Galaxies, solar systems, planets, beings on the planet, etc., all the physical attributes. But it kept God really busy, and I'm sure he had a lot of fun. So that's why there's order. That was your question. Why was there order out of the Big Bang that created us? And that's because there was consciousness and intention behind the Big Bang. Do you agree with that?
Otherwise, that's true, yes. Otherwise, looking at it from a strictly materialistic science position, we have an increase in entropy characterizing the Big Bang. So that's a little bit of insight into what underlies the Big Bang from a physical perspective. But it's just we're not very far along really in understanding the greater mysteries that underlie the formation of the occurrence of a Big Bang. I think there's a lot more to it than we realize at this point.
Do you want to explain what entropy is, Bertie?
Yeah, entropy is a scientific way of getting a handle on random processes on order. The
entropy means disorder, right?
Entropy means disorder.
Yeah, so you want to decrease entropy.
Right. From what I remember, entropy basically means without energy, everything moves from order to disorder. You have to supply energy to fix things, or to keep it in order. Without energy,
yes, right.
Everything moves into disorder.
That's right. Yeah, and this disorder is the energy in disorder can be used to power things that require input from outside, but it is the entropy that really is the way to characterize the disorder of order disorder of the universe.
Right. So we want to try to get away from entropy.
I've heard that from the Big Bang, whatever that did explode was only about the size of a quarter. Is that true, that everything that we have here all came from something the size of a quarter?
Well, you can say that, and it's oftentimes said by trying to get people to appreciate how the universe has changed since its beginnings. But it's the quarter is, of course, just an arbitrary thing. I mean, it could have said this is the universe could fit on the head of a pin or anything else.
I've heard that too. You could fit on the side of the head of a pin.
This is all speculation, because when we get down to that size, or down to that degree of a sort of pseudo compression that existed at the formation of the universe in the Big Bang, it's well, we really think that there is something more to it than just the existence of our kind of energy that we use every day. And this is probably where the zero-point field plays a role. We may want to discuss that later. But.
Yeah, I think that's really important to our hypothesis.
All right.
Yeah.
We have to remember that. But if you don't mind, Marsha, can you tell us about your near-death experience?
Oh, I would love to. At the time, it was very terrifying, however. But when I look back on it, I have a very deep mystical feeling about it. So when I was around 16 years old, I was vacationing with my family and another family that were really good friends with us at Rio del Mar, which is a beach just south of Santa Cruz, and it was spring break. So sometimes tides can be kind of wild, and you never really know, like the weather changes really rapidly. But anyway, it seemed like a really nice day at the time, and we were out jumping in the surf, body surfing. And the waves are fairly large, so we thought, wow, we could get some good body surfing in here. But unfortunately, as I was yelling and screaming and having fun and so joyous, this big wave came over me and sucked me under. And it pulled me so far under, I had to really hold my breath. I wasn't, it took a really long time to come back to the surface. And when I did get back to the surface, I could no longer touch my feet. And I was actually sucked slowly, but rather quickly, out to sea. And I couldn't get out of it. I'm a really good swimmer, too. I've taken many, many swimming lessons, and I love the water always, but I could not get out of this undertow. And the people on the shore, my sister and my friends, they were yelling at me, and I started screaming, and I started panicking for sure. But because I could swim, I kept afloat, and everything got smaller and smaller. And as I got further and further out to sea, I had this really beautiful experience. That's when I had my near-death experience. What happened was this white light was white and kind of purple and kind of magenta. It kind of started glowing all around me. And the faces and the voices of my ancestors appeared, and they spoke to me, and it was really a beautiful experience. They said to me, Marsha, we're here to help you. You're part of us. We are a part of our ancestors. Genetically, we have strong ties. We're here to help you. So just relax. Don't get nervous. You don't even have to swim. We're going to keep you afloat. And they all joined their hands under me from the other side. So here I was, 1 foot on the other side of the veil called death, and 1 foot in the physical world. And I was straddling both sides. And there I was floating, and I just put my arms back, and I stopped struggling, and I felt love. This beautiful glow of love all around me, and my ancestors were there. They were sharing their love with me, and they said, it's not time for you to go yet. Someone's going to come to rescue you, so just hang on there until help arrives. So I did, and I didn't even have to swim. There I was, just floating in this sea of love and light, and pretty soon a surfer showed up. And the surfer came up on his surfboard. He said, I saw you out there. I saw everyone screaming. I came to get you. And I said, oh, thank you so much. And he pulled me up on the surfboard. And I was exhausted and I was freezing and I was shivering all over, but he managed to paddle perpendicular to the current, pull me out of the undertow, and we went into shore. At the same time, my father had gone out to rescue me in an inner tube, and he'd been carried the opposite direction by the undertow, and his second surfer rescued him. So we were both saved by our ancestors. And obviously, I had hypothermia, and it took about an hour to warm up when I got back to shore. My dad was so elated, he gave the surfers $100 reward. So anyway, that experience taught me and showed me that I'm connected to beings on the other side, that there's another dimension, that, you know, it's not far away. Death is not a scary thing. It's just a transition to another realm of being. So that's my words of wisdom. Don't be afraid of death. When it's your time, it actually is not going to be hard. You'll have loved ones there to help you.
Did your ancestors look like light beings?
They were a cross between light beings. They had sort of, I could visualize like shapes because I knew my most recent two grandmothers on both sides of my family. So I could kind of see this kind of, I mean, I recognized who they were. But yeah, they weren't like in bodies. They were definitely light beings, for sure. It's kind of ephemeral.
After you came back and everything was okay, did you notice that you had any new gifts in your life that could be considered psychic?
Definitely. That's the next story. So, I started. Well, first thing, it opened the veil. It just kind of pulled it back a bit. I mean, I can't really see everything on the other side. Little things crack through or peek through all the time. You know, like I get impressions from people who have passed away or impressions of things that might happen. But one of the most powerful experiences I had later than when I was 19, I had a high fever, and I went into this trance. My fever was so high. I went into the lotus meditation pose, sat up in bed, didn't even know what it was called at the time because I had never studied yoga. But I closed my eyes and I went through 32 past life experiences of who I was. And one of the most powerful ones I had was I saw myself as the thrower of the I Ching in ancient China, a man sitting on the banks of the Yangtze River, casting yarrow sticks and looking straight into my eyes and seeing Marsha.
Wow.
So that was a really very intriguing one.
In your opinion, the other side is right here with us. It's just perhaps in a different frequency, like changing the channel on your television set?
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, it's a different dimension. And I sometimes communicate with that dimension now because the veil's been pulled back a bit. But I still mostly focus on my life as Marsha, obviously. And I had to focus a lot to help Bernie write this book that we're talking about. Can I mention it now?
Of course, yeah.
The Miracle of Our Universe. A New View of Consciousness, God, Science, and Reality. And you can get it at major bookstores, online, Amazon, etc. But hopefully it'll open your eyes to the bridge that crosses science and spirituality. That's Bernie's primary purpose. We didn't talk about it, but that's what the purpose of what we were trying to do here in this conversation and in our book and in our lives. And Bernie's always felt the need to be spiritual and to be a scientist. When he was a young boy, he used to line his animals up on his bed and give them communion. He was raised as a Catholic, and he studied to be a Catholic priest.
It was fun to see Mass when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
A little thrilled to walk into in my bedroom where I placed the animals and the puppets that we had as kids. And I then put on some investment and started saying mass. And it was a fun way to spend some time.
Yeah.
A good hobby.
And then he decided, no, I really like girls. And my second passion is astrophysics. Quite different, right?
Right.
But there is a connection between spirituality and astrophysics, if you think about it, because astrophysics deals with the whole formation of the universe.
That's right, yeah.
Do you think it's possible that the realm we live in is some sort of simulated place?
Well, that was the point of the book, is to propose a model of God and a model of creation. So we're saying in the book, now, we know what all these things that somehow are, important, and we figured it all out. We have proposed a database, and we have proposed that we have a model of God, and it's sort of like having a model for your car or for an airplane.
It's a model. That's really important. We're not claiming to have all the answers like some people do. We're just proposing a model that people need to think about or should think about if they're interested.
A model that presents something that would be good for people to mull over and to see how our universe corresponds to something that was created by a creator for a purpose.
Yeah, we believe we live in a simulated reality that is so well rendered, we cannot distinguish it from physical reality. So as human beings, we're more avatars for our consciousness that is in a different dimension. But we are in a simulated reality. And it's kind of hard to get your arms around that because, here as human beings, everything looks solid.
Yeah.
You touch your desk, you hear it slap. You touch the microphone, you hear it pop.
Yeah.
But when you think about what makes these physical things, actually, they're composed of atoms. And the atoms, when you look down at the microscopic level, are very far apart. There's lots of space between each atom.
Right.
And each nucleus has an electron or more going around it in some fashion. So we used to think of the atom as being more like a solar system, where the electron orbited in an orbit around the nucleus. But now, thanks to quantum physics, the electron is seen more as bouncing around in a sea of probability. And what makes it appear in one point or another point? Consciousness. So when we sit in our favorite armchair, we're not really sitting in a leather seat. We're sitting in a sea of atoms and that are surrounded by clouds of probability. And that is actually the new model for what an atom is like. You see the electron as like a fuzzy kind of representation around the nucleus.
Right. That's the model now, the current model. It still is not a sort of a model that has the blessing of somebody on high to give the truth of what we're speaking.
No,
not at all. But
and that's a scientific perspective, is to create models. So that's one of the things that Bernie contributes a lot.
Right. So we trust this is a problem involving trying to find what the basic properties are, or could be, of a being that could be the creator of the universe. What we're involved in making such a universe provide the necessary structure to look at an atom, say, evaluate that and other possible ways in which things are in this physical universe of ours are constructed.
I would like to just present the double slit experiment.
Right.
Yeah. So this is a really very authentic, serious scientific representation of the bizarre aspects of quantum mechanics. So this experiment has been done and proven over and over again, and it shows that everything varies depending on who's observing it and when. So it's usually a double slit experiment is done with a laser that's projecting a screen onto a screen behind it and has two slits. And the laser beam is wide enough to shine on both slits. When you cover up one of the slits, the light from the laser passes through that open slit, and a pattern will appear on the wall behind it. This is due to the spreading out of light. So as the light goes into a slit, it is a particle. But as it projects onto the screen, light transforms itself into a wave, which indeed shows the dual nature of light, which is very interesting. So if you uncover the second slit, the light going through each slit will still have the same diffraction pattern or the pattern on the screen. So it doesn't matter whether light goes through one slit or both, it still has the same pattern. And even if you turn it down till there's only one single photon going through the one slit or the other at the time, it actually makes the same diffraction pattern. Let's see what I would say. But what happens if you try to measure one of the slits, then nothing shows at all because somebody is observing it. So that it doesn't even want to go through the slit. The photon doesn't. Do you want to embellish on that, Bernie? Because I gave more of a non-scientific, intellectual perspective, but not having all the details needed.
Right. It's in fact still being debated whether it is the real model of the real description of reality. The model was actually produced by Niels Bohr back around 1930 or so, and it's just something that is still a big question in modern physics. How well this describes everything, and I'm sure things will look differently as we age and continue and discover more things that are about the atom, that are the atom in particular.
Okay. Would you like to hear more about the zero-point field? Now seems like a good time.
Sure. What is it?
Oh, okay. The zero-point field, its acronym is ZPF. It's broadly recognized as a vast field of electromagnetic energy, and it's also known as the quantum vacuum field, the QVF. And what this is, it represents the underlying sea of energy that is everywhere in the universe, even when there is nothing but vacuum. Remember I mentioned that it was used in creation, possibly, in our model anyway. So it's a combination of every frequency or wavelength. Some waves are short, some are long, but it's perfectly random. It's an infinite source of energy that was already known to Einstein and Max Planck. And so this is Bernie's interesting idea and his actually patent. He believes that the ZPF can be tapped in a way that would provide humanity with an endless supply of clean energy without violating the second law of thermodynamics. Our process has nothing to do with heat. It's electromagnetic. When I say our process, we have a company, it's called Jovion, JOVION.com. And you can, if you're interested in this, you can go look it up and read more about it. I helped put together the website. I am the CEO, Bernie is the chief scientist, and Hugo Trucks is our president. So how we would do the tapping of this energy, we would be using something like a Casimir generator, which is a term I gave to it. And it makes use of the Casimir force that happens when two parallel metal plates are pushed together by an overpressure of the ZPE from the outside of the plate. So it can be created, a Casimir cavity inside the Casimir generator can be created to take advantage of this force. A Dutch scientist, Heinrich Casimir, is the first scientist who discovered the Casimir force. So Bernie and our company, we believe you can manipulate the ZPE through nano-sized Casimir cavities by squeezing out photon energy. There we are, light again, photons. Electron orbitals of an atom spiral down inside the cavity and photons are emitted. Our process then sends the photons through a photovoltaic cell, and electricity will then be generated. So the ZPF acts as a kind of catalyst. What's really cool about the Casimir generator, if we are able to get enough funding so we can get proper Casimir cavities, is that it is portable. You can take it anywhere. You don't have to plug in. You could run your car with it. You could run airplanes with it. You could run your kitchen with it. You could brush your teeth with it.
Well, that's how it looks theoretically. You have to, of course, check this out, see what the real world situation is like.
So the applications of this would be a new energy source.
It would be, yes. And one that is available everywhere.
And it's already recognized as an energy source. It's just no one knows how to tap.
Right. The argument.
Would it take any energy itself to make this machine run, like batteries or gas?
Well, of course, you have to construct it. It's a nanostructure, and whatever energy that takes, you have to have. But that's a small amount of energy. The zero-point field is enormously huge, and there's no shortage of energy in it.
The system is circular. In other words, we have it like in this circular circuit. So as the energy gets tapped, the photons get squeezed off and they go in the photovoltaic cells. Then the rest of the air is pushed through this circular system by a gas, an inert gas, a noble gas, that's right. Something like xenon or whatever.
Argon, krypton.
Argon, krypton. Yeah, so it replenishes itself when it exits the Casimir cavity. So you don't have to keep putting energy into it. You just have to get it started, and then it's self-circulating.
The criticism of this approach, of any approach that involves the zero-point field, is that you're then accused of going below the zero level of an atom, which you can't do. You can't go below the zero level. But it's not the case if you look at the properties of Casimir cavities. Casimir cavities are small little structures that interact with the zero-point field all around us, and it can be shown pretty easily that the zero energy is below the zero that we normally measure.
The zero-point energy as itself is so vast and infinite, and it can replenish itself because it's just long and short waves. So when the photons are squeezed out inside the Casimir plates, the photons get replenished when they exit the Casimir cavity. Is that what you were trying to say?
Well, yeah. It said that you can't take the zero-point field and just tap it somehow.
Because it becomes less than zero inside the Casimir cavity. It becomes
less than zero. You can't do that except for inside a Casimir cavity. There, you've got a situation where the zero-point field can go below zero.
The longer waves are emitted.
Let me stop you for a second. This may be a simple question or a simplistic thing for you, but I don't even know, what is a Casimir cavity?
Yeah.
Casimir, Casimir.
Oh, Casimir. Okay, Casimir cavity. Okay, what is that?
They are two metal plates that are pushed together, and the space is at a nanospace. So the 0 point, okay, so I guess I need to show you.
Do they need to be made of any specific metal? These two metal plates?
It has to be a metal that is reflective, because that's would be the noble gases being
the noble gases.
Pardon?
Did you say the noble gases?
Yeah.
So would you use like titanium?
Yeah, what kind of metal would the plates be? That's an interesting question. I don't know the answer.
Probably, aluminum would be good.
Aluminum.
And gold would be good.
Aluminum and gold. So I'm showing you with these two sticky pads. So I know this is really it's just a little example.
Sure.
So the waves of the 0 point energy are vast and infinite. Some of the waves are longer and some are shorter. But if you get the plates so close together, the longer waves can no longer pass through because the space is too small, so they're left out. So then the pressure inside the two Casimir cavities is less than zero because the longer waves are left out. That's how we would extract the 0-point field photon.
Yeah, it's a very simple concept, but we just have to...
Yeah, it's actually not too bad of a little.
Yeah, makes sense.
So we did obtain a patent for this. That was some years ago, but we did obtain a patent, and we worked a little with the University of Colorado, and we issued a patent to them in the hopes that they would go ahead with funding some basic research project on these lines. But they didn't, so we're now in the market again for some funding. Maybe around $2 million would be a nice amount to have. It's not actually a very big amount for scientific research. So we're still plugging away, trying to get better insights.
Trying to get the funding, yeah.
A lot of people like to talk about how Nikola Tesla created free energy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any information on that and whether that's true or not?
No, I don't really. I think
he's a fascinating scientist, by the way. He was really brilliant too.
And brilliant, and also
he was the one that created alternating current, which the whole world operates on now. Right. He invented it, figured it out.
I think him and Edison had a big argument over that.
Oh, they did, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Edison wanted to do direct current, which would have been more dangerous.
Well, it would have been less good. I mean, you can't transmit the electricity in DC condition far less efficiently than you could with alternating current. So alternating current is what powers the entire world, basically.
I think Tesla might have had a vision of what we could do with tapping the 0-point energy. He wasn't quite sure how to extract it. I think the technology at that time was not ready for him. He was ahead of his time because there was no nanotechnology during the time of Tesla.
Right.
And to be able to extract photons from the 0-point energy, you have to use nanotechnology. So now the time is right to be able to construct the Casimir cavity.
I don't know if you believe in UFOs, but if you do, I'm sure you know the distances between planets are, too far to travel, even at the speed of light. It's still too far. So if they are real, do you think that they would be traveling interdimensionally?
I have actually spent a lot of man hours looking into the UFO situation, especially where it is now, because things are happening in a very quick way to bring out from the the black programs of the government to admit that there is a reality there, that UFOs are real, basically. And what to do about that, it's a really hot topic in Washington, and a lot of disagreement. It's kind of exciting, really, because it might mean that after being embargoed for 80 years, the UFO study of UFOs by the government, by the military, is opening up again, used by the public. So I think that this is a really exciting time, and I think it's quite real. There's no doubt that the observations, especially by the Navy pilots who faced the UFOs and who faced by the UFOs as well. So there's an awful lot there, and I think the world is going to be a very different place after the ramifications of this have come out. Now, as for the question that you've asked,
interdimensional.
Yeah. Well,
seems actually totally likely, don't you think?
Yeah, it's totally speculative. Probably, I happen to think that there is an extra-dimensional character to this. That there are other realms beyond the ones that we've been using in physics for the last 400 years, and that there's going to be probably some involvement of the 0-point field and of the
well, we'd love to make a star drive using the 0-point field.
Right.
That would be amazing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of these additional dimensions is something that comes out of string theory and physics, and that's pretty speculative. So it's I don't know how to give a proper answer to your question, but I think that this is a very
Probably
exciting time.
interdimensional. How's that?
Well,
Probably he wanted to know if it was interdimensional.
either that or
It could
wormhole.
be.
I don't even know what that means.
Or what about wormholes? Do you think those
Yeah.
exist?
Well, the wormholes, they are, they're real physics, but they're way beyond anything we can use to do something practical because it takes a lot of energy to drive them. So the wormholes were predicted by by general theory of relativity in recent years by a cosmologist named Alcubierre.
Alcubierre is the name.
Alcubierre.
Yeah.
And he has shown that the equations of general relativity can be used to show that there are structures that can be made theoretically that involve curving space. And it's actually a very nice reference to these popular level possibilities that were have been talked about a lot since
because of his study. Yeah.
Of course, the study was 10 years ago. So I guess I haven't really answered your question, but I'm open myself to interdimensionality, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to.
Except I remember I experienced interdimensionality in my near-death experience.
Right.
Remember that?
What is that?
Yeah.
More questions here than answers.
Well, do you think that heaven and hell exist?
Oh, yeah. So Bernie has come up with theory that he does not believe hell can exist because hell is supposedly an eternal place of torture and pain and retribution for your misdeeds here on earth. Well, so God is an infinite being, and we are sparks of God.
We're infinite too.
And well, yeah, but as heaven and hell for people, for human beings, if we do something horrible here on earth, it could be something as simple as eating a hot dog on Friday when you were a Catholic, when Bernie was a little boy, or it could be something like Hitler did. It doesn't matter if you did something, misdeed. You have negative karma you have to work off, but it's finite because you can only have to work off your karma a certain amount of time until you have paid it off. So why would God want to condemn part of himself, herself, to eternal torture as the spark that you are? In other words, he wouldn't want to condemn any sparks of himself to hell.
Good
So
point.
that's your rationale, right?
It is. That's simple. I mean, he'd be killing, torturing himself.
He'd be torturing himself, yeah.
It does not make any sense.
There is a lot of suffering on the earth. So,
Definitely.
So why would God want to come here and experience suffering?
That's a really painful question to answer because there are a lot of people that are suffering. And it is possible that the suffering is a result of paying off negative karma from this life or past life. And so I believe that that's what the suffering is caused from. That's why bad things might happen to good people. A person could be really doing a lot of really beautiful things in this current life, but maybe they have to pay off something they did before. Remember, you have to pay off your karma. And that's just kind of the rule of the universe. You get good karma and bad karma.
Right.
So do you want to?
That's important because I think that ultimately we rise in the scheme of things. By scheme of things, I mean whatever other realities there may be, such as, for example, interdimensional. You mentioned that. So the
karma is destiny that you earn through your actions and behavior. Really, I should have said that too. That's important.
Right.
So maybe some people didn't understand what karma is, but I bet most of your listeners do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you think God could be a mathematician?
Yes.
Yeah, I talked to mathematicians, and we are able to delve more deeply into any mathematical models than I. I'm not a mathematician, I'm a scientist.
Yeah, so according to Mario Livio, the universe appears to have been designed by a pure mathematician. And Einstein also wondered this. How is it possible that mathematics fit so excellently with the objects of physical reality? And this idea goes back to Plato and Pythagoras, who believed that in addition to the physical world we perceive, there is also a real world of mathematical forms. Mathematical concepts like pi, the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter, or the speed of light at 186,000 miles per second, those are all mathematical constants that are in the universe. And I'd like to tie this into music because I spent my life immersing myself in music, as you said earlier. So music is closely tied to mathematics through harmonics. Johann Sebastian Bach, the father of modern music, devised a system of tuning that is based on mathematics. In the system, the 12 notes of the octave of the standard keyboard are tuned in such a way that it is possible to play music in all major or minor keys without sounding perceptibly out of tune. Each half step is the 12th root of 2. And there are other aspects of music that are also mathematical, such as rhythm, time signature, other notation. And this mathematical nature of music makes me wonder whether God uses music as a mathematical expression of himself, herself, through sound. Or is it possible that music is mathematical because the universe was designed by a pure mathematician? I think music has the greatest influence on us of anything abstract in the world. It undergirds all of society, from classical symphonies to modern pop and rock, operas, masses, Muslim calls to prayer, DJ, music. It's just a universal expression for civilization and God. And remember, I spoke about the logos earlier. It's defined as an expression of thought or word that is tied up with creation. So when spoken as a word, it's a sound. So that's music. So I think God expresses himself, herself through music, and that's why it's so powerful.
Do you think that we will ever come up with a scientific experiment to prove that God exists?
What do you think about that?
Well,
I think it's kind of hard because, scientific experiments deal with the physical realm. And remember, we spoke about God being consciousness, so it's non-physical.
Yeah.
I mean, you can experience God by observation. Like if you're looking at somebody and you're trying to determine if someone loves you, right?
Okay.
Okay, so if you're trying to determine someone loves you, you can't do an experiment in a test tube or in a scientific laboratory. What is love? But you can detect it by observation. So if I ask Bertie, do you love me? How do I know? He could say yes. He could, well, maybe. We've been together 36 years. He better. I determine it by observation, by his acts, his acts of kindness, consideration, compassion, and that's how we experience God. If we offer prayer for guidance and we get an answer, we experience God. And we do get answers to prayer, but a lot of people don't realize it because you need to learn how to watch for the answers from God. Sometimes they're very subtle. Sometimes they're direct answers. You get the answer right away. You get, your wishes manifested. But other times you might get your answers like you're driving down the freeway and you look at a sign on the side of the road and you read what it says, and that's your answer. Or you might see it on a license plate, or it might come out of the mouth of one of your children or your parents. You just got to keep your ears open and your eyes open.
I didn't mention this earlier, but Bernie suffers from Parkinson's disease.
Yeah.
Bernie, do you have any advice for people who are suffering?
I guess the best thing to say is just to keep with it, to not give up, to and look around what you can find on the web just to see what kind of research activity may be going on. Because if you find that there's research going on in a given area, it may be applied to you and you feel much better knowing something's going on. So I don't really have any direct advice on dealing with Parkinson's. It's a strange disease. It's in fact not even exactly a disease. It's kind of a collection of symptoms. And it can go on for years. In my case, I probably acquired this more than 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago.
I think you started exhibiting it around 14 years ago. Actually. It's slow.
It's slow. It's
slow progression.
It doesn't necessarily exclude anything from your life. With the you have enough energy generally, I think, to do the things you want to do.
He keeps doing what he wants to do. That's I think the most important thing that he could share with people who suffer. Stay positive. Meditate. Write books. Take deep breaths. Yeah, we actually have a high-powered light that has helped. It's called the Firefly. It emits infrared, red, and blue light. And we shine that on his head and his neck. And it's helped. It brightens his brain.
Now, this is accused of quackery by most mainstream scientists, I think. But there are now experiments going on with the results published at the government
PubMed.
PubMed.
Yeah.
PubMed is the official government
website for medical publications. Yeah.
And there are thousands of articles in there, peer-reviewed articles. And so there are articles appearing now to look at these near infrared and ultraviolet lights, and they seem to affect the body of the person doing it favorably. So
what it does is it stimulates the mitochondria down at the cellular level for self-healing. I mean, that's the theory behind it.
Yeah.
And I do notice that I try to treat him once a day. If I skip a day, I notice he's not as good. His brain's not as bright. He can't move as easily. So he also has a pump. He has a dopamine pump. So it's kind of a state-of-the-art treatment. And that's helpful too. Keeps him moving.
What would you say is the biggest takeaway that readers should get after finishing your book?
Well, I think that they should find themselves curious enough to the ideas you have in there, curious enough to educate yourself by getting books about the metaphysical topics and so on. So I think that looking into it in a rigorous academic kind of way is probably a good way to spend your time. I do it that way. I do those sorts of things.
Yeah, so he tries to bridge science and spirituality which I think is an important thing to do because, in our mainstream world, there seem to be two trains of thought. There's the religious spiritual side, and then there's the scientific side. And lots of time there's a chasm between the two. And so this book is an attempt to create a model to bridge the two sides. The National Academy of Science states that science only deals with the physical realm and measurements of the physical realm and experiments of the physical realm. It can't prove anything on the spiritual side. It's not the same, it's a different way of looking at the world. So religion and spirituality are different realms. So that's why it's so difficult to prove God, because you can't put God in a test tube, right? But if you bridge it, you see the spiritual side, and then you also inform yourself with scientific information, then I think you could get a better perspective of the world. You agree with that?
I agree with that.
Yeah. Maybe that's the most important thing that we try to do in our book, is to bridge the two ways of being or thinking.
You've had an NDE, you saw past lives. So What are your thoughts on how reincarnation works?
Okay, well, our experience with reincarnation comes from my personal experience is the number one that I already told you about. And it comes from our work when we were editors of the scientific journal called the Journal of Scientific Exploration. And many of you might want to look it up, and you might want to join the Society for Scientific Exploration. This society has conferences and really great speakers from all areas of science that think outside of the box, gathered together once a year. And one of the leading researchers was psychiatrist Professor Ian Stevenson from the University of Virginia. He studied over 3,000 cases of children who claimed to remember past lives. And he himself concluded that emotion, memories, and even physically bodily features could be transferred from one life to another. So this actually is important scientific evidence. And it's really interesting to read some of his research cases. And there's a really important case of James Leninger. And this young boy was investigated by Dr. James Tucker, who is a protege of Ian Stevenson. So I think this is a good case because it's got a lot of evidence. Starting at the age of 2 or 3, Leninger started to remembering the past life of James Houston, who was an American pilot who had been shot down in World War II by the Japanese in the Pacific Ocean. And his memories included details of an American aircraft carrier, the first and last names of a friend on the ship, the location of the attack that killed him, and the nature of the hit that brought down his plane. All details were later confirmed to be accurate. He even met his friend from the aircraft carrier in a reunion, and the friend confirmed that Leninger's memories of Houston were correct. So if you can imagine this young boy, maybe Leninger was about 8 or 9, and he met his friend from the aircraft carrier who is, maybe in his 70s, and he came up to him and remembered him. That was quite a shock.
That's amazing.
So it's a really very powerful example of reincarnation. But, reading the studies of Professor Ian Stevenson, James Tucker, reading the book of Aben Alexander, Proof of God, that's a really good evidence for reincarnation, that we're more than our physical body, and we have many experiences and learning sessions in our present life and our lives to come, and we can learn from our past lives.
Yeah, and it's not just something that's an add-on, the concept of reincarnation. The whole system of, that I've outlined in the book is dependent on that. Because what I think God wishes to do is to experience His reality, experience the reality and the potential of the universe He's created. And so that is the motivation for reincarnation to happen, because what is part of the theory is that we advance with our essence and our behavior and all of that. We advance, and as we advance, we are basically helping God fulfill His own desire.
And we have free will to advance.
And we have the free will to do that. Now, what you need to do is have free will. If you don't have free will, you can't do this, because then it's like instead of living a life, God embodied as you or me or Marsha would be just a puppet show. It would be something that has no purpose. But with reincarnation, it's possible to forget what happened. So if someone is coming into this universe for the first time,
this world, how about
world, yeah,
they might not remember.
And they will not remember what happened before that life, the beginning. And that's an essential feature of the
God experiencing and learning and growing. Yeah, God wants to keep learning and growing and having experiences. That's why the whole universe was created. I believe. But then there are cases like mine, and there are other people too, where the veil gets pulled back, and you can see your past life. Near-death experiences really help to open up that curtain. That's
Right.
my opinion. I think people that remember their past lives usually have had a near-death experience. Maybe not always, but often. I'll say that.
If somebody wants to find out more about your book, should they go to Amazon or your website?
Oh, go to our website. It's www.themiracleofouruniverse.com, all spelled out. And we also have a Facebook page, The Miracle of Our Universe. You have to say Our Universe.
All right.
And I also have an Instagram page. It's Marsha Sims 40. I don't know how that got it. It just ended up being my name, and I just kept it. So, but we do lots of postings about our book and other philosophical ideas on that site also.
But if you just want the book, right, just go to Amazon and
Yeah, you can get it
click the
now.
button, and it'll arrive in less than 24 hours. If you're lucky.
Yeah, and if you really like our book, you could give us a 5-star review, because we got a couple of troll reviews. And it's funny. After the book had only been out 1 week, there was a troll review. I don't even think that person could have even had a chance to get the book, let alone read it. So you know what they were doing. They were just trying to trash new books.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it is. That system needs to be improved, I think.
Well, humans will always have different opinions from each other, so I think you just have to live with that. I mean,
Yeah, but that person didn't even read the book, because they didn't even have it, I don't think.
So we have a venue for the presentation of ideas like this, because it makes, in my opinion, a real difference in the state of the world, because this concept of reincarnation and increasing your capabilities and whatnot.
Increasing your ability to experience God.
This is really important.
That's really important.
Well,
that overrules any problem in my mind of trolls. Let trolls be trolls.
Yeah, if we can experience, this is one of the things I wanted to say. How do you get your guaranteed ticket to heaven here on earth? Through deep meditation, stilling the mind. This is what I do. I still my mind, let myself fall into the love and light of the God cosmic force inside you. And you see who you are. Who is the looker? Who is the looker? You could say that to yourself as a mantra. And what you do is you then fall into the love and the light of God. And then all you want to do is just share it with people around you. It gets past ego. That's important, to get past ego. I think that's ego is the biggest illness that we face in society. It's what causes wars, greed, need for power, need for money, ego. I got to get this. I got to get that. No, you don't. You need to relax and feel the love of who you are. And you get your guaranteed ticket to heaven here on earth.
Would you say that God is the miracle of our universe?
Yeah, we would. Wouldn't you, Bernie?
Well, no, he is. Yeah, I think he is. I think so. That there is nothing else but God. That's the basic idea that I'm trying to promote. There's nothing else but God. And so we don't have to worry about our past life, whether we're going to have one or not. We can't not have it, because we are part of an infinite being. We're a small little, infinitesimally small being that we are is still the same capability, the same consciousness that God is. So there's nothing to worry about. Things will always, in the end, come out right, because God is playing a game with himself.
I want to encourage all the listeners to expand your definition and your awareness of God, because so many religions of the past have taught, okay, God is this human-like form, like maybe some desert patriarch who sits on a throne and has angels floating around him, praising his name continuously with harps, or, surrounded by a field of virgins. No, God is not human. God is consciousness. God is love. God is light. Did I get it, Bernie?
Yeah, I'm looking for my copy of the book by Alan Watts.
Oh.
It has in there a couple of these.
That's another topic.
Another topic.
Yeah.
Another topic.
We could go on for another hour.
Right, sure. After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that? And if so, how do they contact you?
I think the Facebook page is a good thing. Yeah. You could answer questions on Facebook, themiracleofouruniverse.com. Do you want to give an email address?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not sure I have one.
You may have to do a lot of the typing.
Sims at marshasimmsmusic.com.
Right.
My music website. Yeah, Marsha Sims Music. Marshasimmsmusic. That's my music website.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
I'm also an opera singer.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. If people want to check out your music, is that the best place to listen?
Yeah, we have a new song called The Pirate's Gold that just got distributed worldwide. We co-wrote with Antonia V. I think I sent you a link to it. I don't know if you have time to play a little
I listened
snippet.
to it. I can't play it online, but I listened to it, and it sounds very tropical or Caribbean to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's, pirates, gold, hid in the hold of the very soul, carrying your
hidden in the hold of the very ship, carrying my soul
is the pirate's gold. That's our message.
Yeah.
And we thought of Pirates of the Caribbean, so we made it Caribbean. So people could feel it,
We don't want to get into another hour, but we need that to get into the other side of our activities together, which is songwriting. So we are songwriters, in addition to all of this other stuff. And that's one way to, I don't know.
It's one way to get our message out,
right.
Positive message, yeah.
That's great.
We try to write positive songs. We've written another song. It's called Hands Around the Planet. Let's join our hands around the planet.
Yeah, if you would like, we can just email you a couple of MP3 files.
If people want to listen to them themselves, do they hear them on YouTube or on your website?
Oh, the best place, you can hear it on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio. I'll give the names again. It's called The Pirate's Gold with Antonio V, Marsha Sims, and Bernie Sims is his songwriting name. That one is just released. And then another one is called Hands Around the Planet, and that's on YouTube and the same platform, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, etc. So you just put in the name of the song and you'll come up with it.
All right. Well, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Experience the love that is inside you, the experience of God. Experience yourself as a spark of God. Be kind to yourself. Love yourself. Suspend judgment. Suspend criticism. Let yourself be more than your ego. How's that?
That sounds good and uplifting.
What do you want to add to that? Let yourself be more than your ego. Yeah. Kind of learn how to kind of push your ego to the side. Obviously we can't get rid of it because that's part of how our mind works and who we are. But, don't let the ego run rampant over you, craving power and greed and money.
Yeah, what I would add is that be careful not to let yourself get too negative about things that happen every day on this planet of ours. And in fact, there is statistical evidence that demonstrates that our world is a less dangerous
world than it used to be.
That things are improving, and this sounds crazy because we have
wars going on right now.
And all
wars,
that.
Yeah.
But a professor at Harvard University published a book called I have it in the far corner of my office. I can't quite find it immediately, but I could send you the.
Quantum Enigma?
No, we're talking about the book about the better angel of our nature.
Oh, better angels of our nature. Yeah. Don't listen to the news too much. And be careful what you read in the newspaper. Read it out, because the news actually likes to emphasize the negative side of the world around us. Try more to tune into the positive side. How's that? Listening to your podcast, Jeff.
Marsha and Bernard, thank you for your messages, and thank you both for being my guest.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. We had really good time. You're a great person, Jeff.
Thank you. So are you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.